Hey everybody, this is Mr. Reeves, and today I'm going to work through some problems with you from the iReady practice lesson. This one is adding and subtracting rationals. All right, so this first problem that they've given us says what addition problem is shown on the number line. So if we take a look at the number line here, you will notice we start at 0. We have an arrow going to the right. All right, remember when we go to the right, that is the same as adding a positive or subtracting a negative. Then we have an arrow that goes to the left, that is the same as subtracting a positive or adding a negative. Now, since it's an addition problem, right, that means we're going to be adding a positive this way and adding a negative this way. And if you look, it goes 1, 2, 3. It's very important when you're doing these number line problems that you look at what is on the number line. So it's 3 to the right plus 5 to the left. So if you take a look, we have 3 to the right and 5 to the left. This one would be 3 to the left and 5 to the left. This would be 3 to the left and 5 to the right. And this would be 3 to the right and 5 to the right. So this is the one we're looking for. 3 to the right and 5 to the left. All right. Then it asks us, what is the answer going to be? So while it goes ahead and works through that explanation, how do you know what the answer is? The answer is where you end up. So where do we end up right here? We end up at -2. Do you see that right there on the bottom? We end up at -2. So 3 to the right plus 5 to the left, the answer that we're looking for is -2. All right. All right. Let's go on to the next one and see what they have next here. All right. 1 plus -3. Now, again, if we're working with a +1 and this is an addition problem, we're going to start at +1 and then we're going to move 3 because it's negative in the negative direction. Does that make sense? All right. And then they're going to ask us what the answer is. Well, again, the answer is going to be when we look down here where that arrow ends up. Where does that arrow end up? It ends at -2. 1 plus -3 is -2. Now, if you think back to how we did this when we learned it, all right, that should confirm this answer is correct because we always said, what do we have more of and how many more do we have, right? Well, we have 1 positive and 3 negative. What do we have more? We have negatives. How many more do we have? We have 2 negatives. All right, so then if we go to the next problem, now we're doing the same sort of thing, but now we're doing it with fractions. So if you take a look at this number line, you'll see they are no longer whole numbers. Now we're working with fractions. And what's the first one? 1/4. All right, so we're going to start at +1/4 right here, and we're adding a negative, right? So since we're adding a negative, we're going to go 3/4 in the negative direction. 3/4 in the negative direction. All right, and again, the sum is going to be where we end up. All right, so where do we end up? If you go down, we end up at -2/4. All right, so -2, and then you do have to go down here and put the 4. If you just press a -2 and a 4, it puts it up on the top. Now, just so you know, that's also equal to -1/2. Now, they've got fourths marked here. If you were giving me this answer, I would ask you to simplify it and tell me that that was -1/2. But since we're going by how they have it written, we'll go ahead and put in -2/4. All right, so you see how that works? Awesome. All right, so again, -3/4. Now they want us to go ahead and draw in with the arrow, okay? So -3/4, and then we're going to add a 2/4. Well, we're going to be adding a positive. That means we're going to go to the right. So if you look at these arrows, if I pick this arrow, if I started at -3/4 right there, then I would be going to the left, but I don't want to go to the left. I want to go to the right because I'm adding a positive number, right? So -3/4 plus a positive 2/4. That's going to get me at negative 1/4. Do you see that right there? All right. So negative 1/4. So I've modeled it. Again, I went to negative 3/4 because I was adding a positive. I went to the right. All right. And what is that answer? Again, the answer is where you end up on the number line. The answer is at negative 1/4. Negative 1/4 is that answer that I am looking for. All right. Okay. Ooh, exciting new things going on. We're moving on to the next level. Here we go. All right. Now we've got a mixed number, negative 1 1/5 plus negative 3/5. So again, if you look at this number line, okay, there's 0, there's 1, there's 2. Count how many line segments there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So each one of these is a fifth. If there were 4 line segments, each one would be a fourth. If there were 3, each one would be a third. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Counting that one right there, this would be 5/5, right? 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 5/5 are going the negative direction. Negative 1/5, negative 2/5, negative 3/5, negative 4/5, negative 5/5. Okay, so let's take a look. We're going to start at negative 1 1/5. So here's negative 1. Right here would be negative 1 1/5. And then we're going to add negative 3/5. Well, since we're adding a negative, we're going to go to the left. Since we're adding a negative, we're going to go to the left. So I'm going to grab this arrow. I'm going to go over to, there's negative 1, right? There's negative 1 1/5. Right there is negative 1 1/5. And I want to go over 3/5. So that's 1/5, 2/5, 3/5. There it is, right there. I never know where I'm supposed to end, if that's supposed to end there, right about there. I don't think it has to be perfect. All right. And then we want to know what the answer is. Well, again, the answer is where you end up. Here's negative 2. I didn't quite make it to negative 2, did I? So again, this is negative 1, negative 1 1/5, negative 2. I'm sorry, negative 1 1/5, negative 1 2/5, negative 1 3/5, negative 1 4/5, right? We also could see right here, 1 plus 3 is 4. So we get negative. So I'm going to put a negative 1, and then I'm going to put that fraction because I'm making a mixed number, and then I'm going to put a 4, and then I'm going to put a 5 there, okay? So negative 1 4/5 is how we would do that one. All right, negative 3 3/4 plus negative 3/4. Again, I'm going to be on the negative side here, and I'm going to go 3/4 more to the left. Again, here you count 1, 2, 3, 4. See how there's 4? Starting here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So each one of these is a fourth this time. So I'm going to be negative 3 3/4. And again, because I'm adding a negative, again, adding a negative goes to the left, adding a positive goes to the right. Adding a negative goes to the left, adding a positive goes to the right. So I'm going to grab this arrow. All right, there is 0 back here. There's negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, 1, 2, 3. So there is negative 3 3/4 right there, okay? And I want to go 3/4 more. Well, that's 1/4, 2/4, 3/4 right there. And where do I end up? There's negative 4. There's negative 4 1/4. There's negative 4 2/4. But actually, they just want us to mark it first, okay? So the sum would be negative 4, right? And then again, this is 2/4, all right? So 2/4 is what this would be. But I'm going to go ahead and this time instead, I'm going to make it 1/2. All right, let's see if they go with that answer because even though, even though it is 2/4, 2/4 simplifies to 1/2. Come on, Mr. Reeves, you can do this. There we go. So there's negative 4, 1/4, 2/4. But see how that's halfway between negative 4 and negative 5? Negative 4.5 is actually the best way to put that answer. All right. Okay, so this one is very similar, except this one we're going to have a negative, and this one we're going to be going to the right. All right, so -2 and 2/6, but this time my arrow is going to go to the right. And again, if we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, do you see that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's -1, there's -2. There's -2 and 2/6, right? Which, by the way, is the same as -2 and 1/3, because if I were to draw lines on here, in fact, let me do that real quick. Do you see right here? If I do a line right here, and I do a line right here, and I do a line right here, that's 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. So this is actually the same as -2 and 1/3. All right, but they are not seeming to be concerned about simplifying here, so we'll go with what they say. So there's -2 and 2/6, and they want us to add 5/6, right? So there's 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, 4/6, 5/6. Okay, and when I do that, where do I end up at? Well, here's -1, -1, 2, 3. Right? So let me go ahead and mark this as done first, and then I would be at -1 and 3/6. Okay, so -1, see here's -1, there's -2, and then there's 6, and it would be 3/6. Now again, if the instruction said simplify, that would be 1/2, right? Do you see right here, this is at the halfway point. Here's -2, here's -1. So this right here is -1 and 1/2. It's also -1 and 3/6. It's both of those at the same time. All right. So they are allowing us to leave it as 3/6, but again, most of the time your math teacher is going to give you the instruction to simplify. And when you simplify, you would change that to 1/2. It would be -1 and 1/2. All right, but they're going to let us put it that way, so we'll go ahead and leave it that way. All right. Okay, so this is very similar. I'm going to go ahead and skip over to a problem further over. So let's see here. Let's try to go maybe to 15. Let's see where we're at on 15. Okay, so now we have a decimal. Okay, so subtracting a negative, it says which addition problem is equivalent to it. Subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive. Subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive. So we've got -1.4, but subtracting that negative is the same as adding a positive. All right, so the first one stays the same, but instead of subtracting that, we add the positive. All right. So do you remember earlier I said on the number line that when you're going to the right, that's the same as adding a positive, okay? When you're going to the right, that's also the same as adding a negative. So since this again, let me do this real quick right here, okay? Let me use red to emphasize it. Subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive, okay? Subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive. So this becomes that problem right there. Okay, so I'm going to start at -1.4. Do you see -1.4 is right there? And then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5/10 to the right. So each of these is a tenth. So again, when you're looking at the number line, if you count from here's -1, right? Here's -2. If we count how many lines there are, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So each of these is a tenth. So this is -1 and 1/10, right? If we were writing these as mixed numbers, -1 and 2/10, right? -1 and 3/10. But now we're working in decimals. Okay, so subtracting a negative, same as adding a positive. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go to -1.4 right there. There's -1.4. Do you see that? And I'm going to go 5/10 to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5/10 to the right. All right, and now what is the sum? Well, the sum is where we end up. Where did we end up at? We ended up at negative 0.9, all right? So negative 0.9 is what we are trying to get to right here, negative 0.9. All righty, whoa! On to bigger and better things. You got to love all those cool designs. And if we had sound, the sound to go with it. All right. What integer problem is shown on the number line? All right. So let's take a look at what we have here. So if we go between whole numbers 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, do you see how there's two lines, right? So each of these is a half. Can you see that's a half? So that's a half, right? And then we have 1, and then we have 1.5, and 2, and 2.5, and 3, and 3.5. In fact, let me go ahead and write it, okay? This is a half, okay? This one right here would be 1.5. This would be 2. This would be 2.5. This would be 3. This would be 3.5. This would be 4. This would be 4.5, and so on. And if we went the other way, this would be negative 1/2, negative 1, negative 1.5, negative 2, negative 2.5, negative 3, negative 3.5, negative 4, negative 4.5, and negative 5. Okay, so if we look at this problem, where are we starting? Excuse me. We are starting right here, right? Which is at negative 1.5. And then how much are we going up? All right. Well, from there to there is 1/2, right? So that's plus 1/2. And then if we jump in whole numbers, that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, and then we go another half, don't we, right? So plus 1, plus 1, plus 1. So if you add all those together, you get 3 plus a half, which is 4, right? Or another way to look at that, if we just jump in whole number chunks, right? From there to there is 1. From there, because 2 halves makes a whole, right? 2, 3, 4, because 2 halves makes a whole, plus 4. So where did we start? We started at negative 1.5, which all of these do. How much did we go up? We went up 4. So this is the one that we're looking for right there. Okay? All right, let's go on to, the next one. They're going to go through it for us. We're going to have to wait here. Excuse me. What is the sum? All right, well, the sum again is where we end up. Where did we end up? We ended up right here, right? We ended up right here at 2 and 1/2. 2 and 1/2 is where we ended up. Okay? All right. By the way, if we were doing this the traditional way, just to show you, if we wanted to add these together, we would change that 4 to 3 and 2/2, right? Do you guys agree that 2/2 is 1? And then when we added these together, we would say, what do we have more of? 3 or negative 1. We have 2. And then right here, we would say 2/2 minus 1/2 is 2.5. So that's the traditional way we would do it, but they're asking us to do it on a number line. By the way, we also could change that negative 1.5 to 1.5, and then we could do 4.0 plus negative 1.5, and we can get 2.5 that way. So there are multiple ways to get the answer, but they're asking us to do it in this lesson on the number line. All right, so if we were to go on to the next question and see what they have for us. All right, negative 3 1/3 minus 2. So again, if we go to this number line right here, all right, you see they're thirds, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And again, if I were to write these in here, this would be negative 1/3. This would be negative 2/3. This would be negative 1 1/3. This would be negative 1 2/3. and so on. Okay, so they're asking us to go to -3. Here's -3. Here's -3 and 1/3 right there. Okay. Now we're subtracting 2. Subtracting 2 is the same as adding -2. So remember, whether you are, when you want to go to the left, you can either subtract a positive or add a negative. Subtract a positive or add a negative. So I need to go 2 entire units, okay? Now, if you think about it, each of these is a third, right? So how many thirds make one? 3/3 make a whole, don't they? 3/3 make a whole. So I need to go 1, 2, 3, and that counts as moving 1 to the left. And then I need to do it again. 1, 2, 3, and that counts as going another 1 to the left. So if I put those together, that's going 2 to the left, okay? So again, since they're thirds, it takes 3/3 to make one. So I went 1, 2, 3, and that's going back 1, right? And if you think about it, that went from -3 and 3/3 to -4 and 1/3, right? And then I did it again, and I ended up at -5 and 1/3, which really should make sense to you. If you're at -3 and 1/3 and you go 2 further to the left, you're at -5 and 1/3. So they want us to show this on the number line. So here we go. So whoops, there's -3 and 1/3. And then we're going to go all the way over there, how we showed it, to -5 and 1/3. All right. So what is the difference? Again, the answer is -5. Then I'm going to go for my mixed number with 1 on the top and 3 on the bottom. Okay. All right. See how that works? All right. So let's go ahead and go to a little bit further down. How about we try, say, 22? See where that lands us here. All right. Which addition problem is modeled on the number line? Okay. So take a look at where we are. We're at decimals here, right? And these are in halves. Do you see how there's 2 lines here? And a half is 0.5. Again, 1/2 is equal to 0.5. So 1/2 is equal to 0.5. So here is -7. Here is -7 and 1/2, which is the same as -7.5. All right, so we're going to go from there, and then it goes this direction. So since it's an addition problem, that means we are adding a positive. Well, how much did we go? Now, again, every 2 halves makes a whole, right? So I'm going to go ahead. Let me do this. I'm going to do it on here because this is where we're starting. So there's +1. Okay. There's +2. There's +3. And there is +1/2. So we went +3 and 1/2, but remember 3 and 1/2 is the same as 3.5. All right, so where did we start? We started at -7.5, so it's either going to be this one or this one. And then how much did we go up? We went up 3.5, and where did we end up at? We ended up at -4. So this is the one that we're looking for right there. All right. Okay. Okay, then we have this cool little transition going on. Oh, very nice. All righty. Okay, -1/2 to 3/4. You know what? We're back to where we started. All right, but now they're asking us to find a common denominator. Okay, so when we did this before, we just did the number line and the denominators were all the same. But now we're looking at finding a common denominator. So if you take a look at these divisions, they're fourths, right? So each of these is a fourth. So if we took a look here, this would be -1/4. This would be -2/4, and this would be -3/4, right? All right, but if you take a look right here, this is also, if we just go here and here and here, if we just look at those, then we have halves, right? So this is negative 1/2, right? Can you see that right there? Okay, so this right here, again, if we did this, this would be negative 1 and 1/2. All right, this one over here would be negative 2 and 1/2. All right, right here, this would be positive 1/2. This one right here would be 1 and 1/2. Right, there's 2. And then over here, we would have 2 and 1/2. So the red ones go by halves, while the blue ones go by fourths. And you can see that the blue ones are smaller, right? So this one right here, this negative 1 and 1/2 is the same as negative 1 and 2/4. This positive 1 and 1/2 is the same as 2/4, right? 2.5 over here would be 2 and 2/4. And negative 2.5 would be negative 2 and 1/4. So every 1/2 is equal to 2/4. Every 1/2 is equal to 2/4, right? So 1/2 is equal to 2/4. So when you find a common denominator, we go for the smaller number. We break it into the smaller pieces. So we take that negative 1/2 and we're going to change that to negative 2/4. Again, the way that you have seen me and probably other teachers do it is we're going to multiply both the bottom and the top by 2, and we get negative 2/4 because we needed that bottom number to be 2. Okay? All right. So I know I spent a long time on that right there, but that was important for you to see. All right. So that problem, 1/2, and they're showing you, is the same as 1/4 plus 1/4. All right. So we complete the equation. And then, whoops. Oh, I'm sorry. Negative 1, negative 1/2. Oh, they already have the negative there. That's why. They already have the negative there, so we don't need the negative again. So I had the right answer, but I was not paying close attention. There we go, negative 2/4. And then what's the answer going to be when we put those together, right? We've got we've got negative 2/4 and we're adding 3/4, right? So there, negative 2/4 is right there. There's our negative 2/4. There's negative 1/4, negative 2/4, and they're asking us to add 1, 2, 3/4. Okay? And then the answer, of course, where are we at? Right there. Where did we end up at? That is 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. So we ended up at 1/4. Okay? All righty. Let's see what they have up for us next. All right, negative 1 and 2/3 plus 5/6. Negative 1 and 2/3 plus 5/6. Now, if you take a look at the number line, what do we have here? Between 1 and 2, between negative 1, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So these are 6, right? But again, if we instead of counting every line went every other line, right, from here to here, okay? Do you see they are thirds? 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, right there. Okay. So negative 1 and 2/3. Well, here's negative 1. Here's negative 1 and 1/3. Here's negative 1 and 2/3. Again, if we were going by sixth, right? This would be negative 1 and 2/6. Do you see that? 1/6, 2/6. And this would be negative 1 and 4/6. All right. So again, sixths are half as big as thirds. All right. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is negative 1 and 2/6. So negative 1 and 2/6 and negative 1 and 1/3 are equal to each other. That would be if I was going in sixths instead of thirds. All right. Okay. So where is negative 1 and 2/3? Negative 1 and 2/3 is right there. We're adding a positive, so we're going to go to the right. Okay, so there is negative 1 and 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, 4/6. Again, if we wanted to take 2/3, if we wanted to take 2/3, and because we want to add it to a 6, we want a common denominator. That common denominator of 6, we need to multiply the top and the bottom by 2, and we get 4/6. Okay, so this is negative 1 and 1/6, negative 2 and 2/6. Sorry, negative 1 and 2/6, negative 1 and 3/6. Right here is negative 1 and 4/6, which is the same as negative 1 and 2/3. So I took this number, I changed the denominator to 6, so negative 1 and 4/6 plus 5/6. So from there now, I'm going to count over. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And when I'm done, whoops, what did I do here? Negative 1 and 2/3. Let me try this again. So this is indeed negative 1 and 2/3 right here. Okay, because again, if I went right here, there's negative 1, there's negative 1 and 1/3, there's negative 1 and 2/3. So I'm starting at the right spot right there, and I want to go 5/6 to the right. Okay, so 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, 4/6, 5/6 to the right. Okay, got it right this time. All right, what is the sum? Well, the sum is where we end up. Where do we end up? Here's negative 1, right? So it's actually between 0 and 1. So let's start here, 0 and negative 1. That right here, this would be negative 1/6. This would be negative 2/6, right? This would be negative 3/6. This would be negative 4/6. This would be negative 5/6. So our answer is negative 5/6. All right. Does that make sense? All righty. What do we got next? Negative 1 and 2/3 plus 5/6. So now they want us to do it with a common denominator. So this is like what we said. 2/3 is equal to 4/6, right? We double them. Double the 3 times 2 to get 6. Double the 2. We did that one. All righty. So they want us to do this again, negative 1. Again, now they've got 6th on here, though, right? So here we go. Negative 1 and 4/6. All right, so negative 1, and there's 4/6, right? 1/6, 2/6, 3/6, 4/6. Negative 1 and 4/6 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And where did we end up with? Again, we ended up at negative 5/6. Okay? So what they want us to see is you could do it on the number line without using a common denominator, and you can use a common denominator with a number line. We also could do it without the number line. All right. I think this is the last one we're going to do together. Negative 1 and 1/8 minus 3/4. All right. So again, they have divided it up into eighths. Let's take a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 sections, 8 parts to get from 0 to negative 1. They want us at negative 1 and 1/8, and we're subtracting a positive, so we're going to the left. We're subtracting a positive, so we're going to the left. So I'm at negative 1 and 1/8. But they want me to go 3/4 over. Now again, 3/4, this is an eighth, right? 2/8 makes fourths. So if I go like this, all right, if I start here, can you see now there's 1/4, there's 2/4, there's 3/4, and there is 4/4. fourths. So this is -1. This is -1 and 1/4. This one is -1 and 2/4. And this one right here is -1 and 3/4. This one right here, of course, would be -1 and 4/4, which is the same as -2. All right. So then they want me to go 3/4 more to the left. Now again, fourths and eighths. If I have to go 3/4 and I want to do that in eighths, okay, I have to multiply by 2. 3 times 2 is 6. So what I have to go is 6/8 from there, right? 6/8. Right here would be 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8. And that's the same as going 3/4, right? So going back 6/8 is the same as going back 3/4, and it's going to land me right over here at -2. Okay? Well, what just happened here? Did I not go enough? 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8. No, I went too far. There we go. How about that one? Is that better? Yeah. What is the sum? Where do we end up at? There's -1, right? And then 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8. So -1 and 7/8. -1 and 7/8. All righty. So again, this next process, they're going to have us find a common denominator. Okay, let's go all the way to, let's see here, 28. I know I had said that's the last one. I wanted to do another one if we had a decimal. No, is it not going to let us do that? All right, how about 29? Let's see if we can do 29. All right, and this will be the last one. Oh, all right, I thought we were going to be at a decimal, but I guess not. All right, so how can we model? This is back to where we started again. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and let you guys do the rest on your own. All right, just a summary again, just to summarize it all up before we end the video. All right, if you are going to the right, that is the same as adding a positive, okay, or subtracting a negative, okay? If you are going to the left, that is the same as adding a negative or subtracting a positive, okay? So if you look at this one, the first one is positive, so that would go to the right 1/5, and then we're at -4/5, and that would go to the left. So that's one thing, or I guess it's four things you need to remember. The other thing is you need to look at the number line, these, and count. They're from between two whole numbers. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they mark those off for you. All right. If there were 4, there'd be fourths. If there were 2, there would be halves. And finally, the last thing is finding a common denominator. You have to make the denominators the same, right? So whatever you do to the bottom, you do to the top. And on a number line, you can mark them off. It's very nice here, okay? This is fifths, so they don't break up very nicely. But we could take each of these. If we put in an extra line there, right, then these would be tenths, right? And 1/5 would be 2/10, and so on, right? 2/5 would be 4/10. In this case, the denominator would be twice as big because we cut it in twice as many pieces. All right, so I hope this video helped you guys understand it a little more if you did not understand it last time. And if you didn't give it a try last time, I sure hope after watching this video and working through it with me, you will go ahead and give it your best shot.